So you have the two options. You can lay it off and give it over this, or you can stretch it.
How many more years do we have in the city hall building?
Come close, we have.
It's 29er.
Yeah, another year or two.
Okay.
We
So
paid
that's
this, that
through
one will
this
be
one.
paid off.
Is that what the 35,000 is?
The
That-
75 is the
So that
city hall.
goes away in a couple of years?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so
The
how much,
18,000 is just a payment for the next one, 5 years, 6 years.
Excuse me?
The 18,000, the last one. The phase,
all
All
saints?
Saints, that's phase 4.
Folks, I'm not prepared to answer.
No, you're
didn't
fine.
know
Yeah,
that was coming
I
up.
can look at it.
I'm sure you, I don't want to give you
What do you
a correct
recommend?
answer.
You know, kind of, but we'll get, check works hard to get you.
No, that's fine,
information.
I get it.
So you have the options, if you either pay off,
Yeah.
or you stretch it a
I
little bit.
didn't know what the cost saving was.
It's just a, it's small.
You just remove that interest element
Sure,
of that
yeah.
first page.
Yeah. But I mean, we're gonna get another one plugged in for phase 3, right? Once that closes, we're gonna,
Yeah,
Well,
not
how-
yet, I haven't talked about it yet.
we already voted on that, a joint meeting.
I think it was approved and then, I can't recall the percentage.
But all I'm saying is, we don't have to look at this one, then that'll be better, then the payment on that next one will be much smaller than this anyway, than our $45,000 payment, if we're paying it off, so.
I don't remember.
That's all right,
the
no,
payment
it's-
on
I
the
guess-
last
I'm just
phase.
trying to think of what else is out there. So
Yeah, but that's a pending, I think it was approved by the board.
Yes, I see.
Nice.
We can look it up. But this is in those three. The first one, the city hall, which is, we have couple more years. The second one is a day off, which is, third one is the one that still have more payments.
How much longer?
The 18,000?
Yeah.
I have to look up and see, but we still have more, because we started.
I think it's around 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Just for memory.
Our current reserves are, some of that in CDs right now.
Yeah,
What's our approximate rate on their CDs?
2 to 20.
We're paying 4 on some, you get 2.5 million, you're gonna lose 2.5, you can take some of that out.
We don't take that one.
Yeah,
It's already saving. I put some of the savings on the CD.
Right.
And
but it's an opportunity cost. You could put that money into a CD instead of,
Yeah, you lose the investment return.
right,
yes.
so. It's close to free money right now, if you just stretch it out as well.
And yeah, like I said, it's no
But
different
again,
than
something
the
off the books.
loan you set in your own personal thing, you set up a loan, and then you start to think about it with a paid off. Chip did a good job by giving you that opportunity to think about it.
I can have detail on all these. I didn't know they were all on the agenda. I just have.
Yeah,
So,
when I went to the budget, I have the 45 sad to get it over with because we're moving on to the second and third phase of that one.
Shirley, Kim, when you guys want to?
So that you really, age of decision is good.
If we're borrowing money right now, what's the approximate interest rate?
what credit are we talking about?
If we're talking about the larger projects that we're talking about.
Electric then, or water,
Yeah,
or
electric
general
revenue
obligation?
Electric revenue bond. Well, yeah, there you go.
In the range of 3.25% to 4%. Depends what credit we're talking about.
And rates have come down.
They've come down nicely over the past roughly 6 weeks. That's mid-January. 6 to 7 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's
It's cleaner.
paid off.
That's
Okay,
it.
we need a motion to approve ABC, 5 ABC.
I make a motion.
Second one.
Okay, how do you vote? Jones?
Yes.
Belden? Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Amy, yes. Okay, B and K, alternate water source study update and water height adjustment project update.
So the first is on the water. I don't, Sarah, did you get that to everybody, or do I need to hand it out, that memorandum?
I made copies and passed that out.
Which one is this?
It's
We have-
this one. I brought extras if someone needs it.
I know. The more paper there. I know.
Okay.
Thanks.
This one?
Yep, that one.
Give me one of those, would you, please?
Okay.
I'm gonna have 6 of everything.
All right, thank you.
So this part of the study is looking at running the water line out to Rose Acres and to Dudley's. And let me back up a little bit. Right now, Rose Acres and Dudley's, they are connected to city utility water. And basically, they get their water like the rest of the customers, they get it from Xenia. So water comes in from Xenia and then it's piped out west to Rose Acres and to Dudley. And that's very high quality water. As you know, you drink it, it's softened and the iron's removed, the manganese removed, and it's very good quality water. But then that water is sent out there for some human consumption, which you can't change that, that would continue. But it's also to provide drinking water for livestock, chickens and cattle. And so the thought was, rather than sending that high quality water for livestock, and that's a big bill that they pay, maybe there's a way that's a win-win for getting the wells over by Redfield, get them up and running, more, all the time. And then there's a raw water line that comes from the Redfield wells into town. And so then we would run a water main from here in town out to the west. So it'd be 2 water mains that are going out there. There'd be the existing one that would have human consumption water, and there'd be another parallel one that would just be for livestock. So looked at the cost of that to run the water line out there, $2.7 million. And that is the water main, that's putting bigger pumps and motors on the wells, because you gotta pump it further. So we looked at all those costs, and then we looked at, okay, that's a big number, $2.7 million. But then what is, Rose Acres and Dudley's, what are they writing for payment for the water that they're getting now? And, right now, with the numbers we had, it was about $330,000 a year. And actually, I got from City Hall Ashley, from Ashley, some more current numbers, and it's actually more like $370,000 they're spending. So you take that 2.7 million, divide by 330, divide by 370, 330 you get a payback by 8.2 years. 370, it's going to be closer to 6. So that was just our first step. There's some things that are not included in that, and there's a one big, huge caveat. But we'll talk about the cost things first. One is, we haven't figured all the costs into that yet. This was just an update to see if we're even in the realm. If the answer came back, this is 50 years, we're going to stop. But we think this is in the realm. If the board thinks this is in the realm of a decent enough payback, then we need to look a little deeper. There's some things that come off that. One is you're losing out on your delta on Xenia. So if you buy a gallon of water for $1 and you're selling it for $1.25, you're going to lose that quarter. So we need to take that into account. That delta between the bulk rate and your sell rate.
You consume less oil. So you're saying the margin?
The margin, you're
In the
right
volume.
now, the water you're shipping out west,
Okay.
your,
Margin on it.
the margin on that, you would lose.
But the other one-
Yeah, that's
Okay, can I briefly though?
Yeah.
When we look at the payback, we look at how much they pay for water and how long that would take to pay off that 2.7. Are we assuming they would pay the same rate
No.
they're paying now? for
Haven't gotten there.
Okay, I
Yeah.
apologize. I apologize.
Any other
It
part-
sounded like you put 29.
No, I wasn't around, there's more.
We'd have to throw an interest rate in there too, for the bond payback.
Yes, that's right, there'd be, so there'd be an interest cost for that.
Yeah, it's
So like Ben said, there is also that, Rose Acres and Dudley's are saying, well, why am I gonna pay the same rate
Right.
for less quality water? I need to have some sort of a deduct in my water bill for that less quality water. So that needs to be figured out what that is and what that impacts on this. The other is the maintenance cost of the wells. Now, all of a sudden, you're out there maintaining wells a lot more often than you are now. The other is a power cost, now you're running, the power bill's gonna go up, and we can calculate all this, or make some assumptions. So if the board wants to proceed, continuing to look at that, we can look at this in more detail with those costs. The big caveat is, I talked to Dudley's, and Dudley's is fine, their cattle is okay having higher iron water. I've been playing phone tag with Rose Acres, and I don't have an answer, and Ben has warned me
And
that,
I have spoken with Andy.
okay,
And I was very careful not to say anything that would anyway turn him off or sabotage it. But I just asked him, I explained to him what you were going to talk to him about. I said, do you think you'd have any interest in untreated water, well water, if perhaps it was at a lower rate? And he said, it does not sound good. And he said, I said, well, you can talk to Forrest in depth about this, but he said, we're very picky about our water quality and we want high quality potable water. So that's just what he told me.
yeah, so that may be, I mean, if they insist on having that Xenia water quality, then we'll stop right now. Because Dudley's does not have enough water by itself to, they're not the big water producer of the two. So we need to have that conversation with Andy before we move forward with this.
Raw water would just build up that. Stuff.
They get a lot of lake water, they're all cage up there, yeah. I can see why they put it on empty and lake.
The issue is we have right now they have some issues with our water quality, that it is not a high enough quality water. And that's the main concern, is we would be offering them water of much lower quality. He said, oh man, we used to have that Redfield water, that was terrible. And I said, well, that was treated well water. This could potentially be untreated well water, so you'd actually have the hardness and iron.
Yeah,
So if we have that conversation and there's no interest, have to explain the differences, I think that's the direction, right? I don't think it goes forward. The other side of that is if there's a cost benefit, that, if it's not gonna say, maybe he throws a number out or he runs it by, their corporate folks and they say there needs to be a cost benefit or something. I don't know how else you measure that, but the numbers you're looking at, we're gonna do a 10-year payback with all of the other numbers.
and maybe there's something that he says, oh, well, if I can get this much of a less water rate,
Yes.
but then I do something to get that water quality up to where I need it.
Yeah,
Then maybe.
yeah.
So we'll just have to have that conversation with Andy and see what he says.
Kind of rule of thumb on a 10-year payback, if it's gotta go longer than that, then,
Yeah, so we were at 8 with some things,
Sure.
so I thought this was presented to the board. So let's say, yeah, I'll have that conversation with Andy and let the board know where we're at. I'll email Sarah and Ash and Pat and Ben and let them know here's where we're at, and then depending on that conversation, we may stop, or that conversation is, no, maybe there's something here, and then we'll let you know that too.
Are you guys, does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
And then are you able to put like a summary together of what all the things are that you've looked at?
Oh, yes, we will do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can put that in our minutes for.
And we'll have a full report when we're done, looking at the Jordan well, the Redfield well,
Okay.
a pond somewhere, staying with Xenia, blending all these different options. I presented that before to the board, but yeah, we'll bring this all together.
Okay. Perfect.
In one thing. And present the overall.
Okay. Awesome.
Any questions about where we're at?
Some of this was not about, some of it was about options now of, what could be done and, things like this idea that's floating, but some of it is just having a backup, like Xenia, over a period of 5 years, just skyrocketed our cost of water.
Continues to skyrocket. That's how we got here.
Yeah, so exit strategies of Xenia, I still want to understand do we have realistic options of doing something on our own if we have to mitigate, skyrocketing costs from our providers now?
So that's
Yes.
a water treatment plant cost, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're getting at.
Yes.
So is that something that's easily sized? as far as-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the only option that you're talking about, right?
I don't want to have to do that, I just want to understand.
Sure, I totally-
whatever,
Yeah, so we're gonna have that, we're gonna have that, if we turn on the Redfield wells, probably not the Jordan, but if we turn on the Redfield wells, or maybe the Jordan, I don't think so, based off what I know. And then we either rehabilitate the water plant, which more than likely a new water plant in the same area, what does that cost? And how do we finance that, Chip?
Well, I think you also have to look at, like if Rose Acres is unwilling to go back to that old source feed, we would be customer too.
Yeah.
They could say, no, we're gonna go senior, and
Right,
then we lose a big customer too.
yes.
So Ash, we looked at this a long time ago, when you first started this whole, study, like in August, September time. We got here because of double-digit rate increases from Xenia. This was the first year we had no increase from them. So ironically, anyway, so it'll be cool to get your, summary on what that treatment plant costs. Every other town, larger community, and Guthrie and Adair all have water treatment plants, but they were built years ago. And
We have one too.
Yeah, and I'm
hasn't
gonna
grown
talk
in
about
20 years,
that.
right? Is it 20 years?
Oh, it's
Older,
older,
dead?
86.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got one, but it's a boat anchor.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it in a few minutes here.
Gotcha.
The water tower. So I met with Ben, gave me a nice tour. And we're working on plans. I should have plans available by the next board meeting, before the board meeting, for Ben and Pat to review for flooring that in. So I'll have that at your next board meeting.
Okay, so is 6B and 7 the same thing?
I mean, I did bring my.
Is that- No, I
that's
just
separate.
got something separate
Okay,
to discuss
okay,
that's
gotcha.
quick.
Okay, no, you're.
Thanks.
I'm just gonna kind of piggyback on a couple
Okay.
water things just to put, are we there? I don't have an agenda.
Water tower, water plant maintenance and improvements, number 7.
Yeah, all I'm doing tonight, this is just informational, we're not making any decisions tonight. I put a handout there, and Neil, I might have been short, you might have to look at Shirley's. You should have a single piece of paper that's just for a tank mixer. When we put this new tank in, we installed a mixer. That basically keeps the water fresher and it keeps it from freezing in the winter, more importantly. And the plan from the beginning was we were gonna also put a mixer in the other tower. That hasn't been done yet. We had a real cold snap. We kinda wanted to see what it did this winter, and we do not have much water exchange in the winter. Even when we lower the level on these tanks, that water tends to sit there, and when it gets really cold, we've had some icing this winter, and you can have a lot of damage to your tank, so we need to look at putting a mixer in this old tank. I'd love it if we could get it done this summer, but if we can't, we'll do it when we can handle it. It's about 26 and 26.5 to do that. It's something that we're definitely gonna wanna do when we can do it. The quote is through Viking, that's who we use for all our tower maintenance, it involves them getting the tank and welding and stuff, so. All we would have to do is just bring power to the bottom leg, which we can do ourselves, so. That's something just to be, yeah.
We're gonna be done. We can put that or not.
And I didn't put that on the agenda, so we can't even make a decision on it tonight anyway. We'll see how-
It's on the agenda for water tower maintenance.
Yeah, I didn't put anything, that's fine, if you guys wanted to do it right now, certainly.
Yeah.
But I figure we've got a lot of stuff going on, so we don't necessarily have to do this in this budget, new budget year. We have not specifically budgeted for this. This would be something on top of that, so it's just something that,
Okay,
Do you guys
just
have,
making everyone aware.
is there a reason that, we just took 45 out of
I just said.
That's what we were just
This
talking
fiscal,
about.
no, it's not this fiscal year, next.
So why don't we, is there something wrong with approving this now and you can do it in July?
Yeah.
I mean, is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. And
I'm good with it.
It's definitely
Yeah,
worthwhile,
so
so I
we just
appreciate
discussed.
that.
We were just talking
We
about
just talking
that.
about
Yeah,
it.
no, I
Since we
mean,
just paid
sure.
that 45. but
Since it wasn't in the budget, do you still have enough in the budget?
I would, I just explain that here, but it's a suck. It will be not this fiscal year, it's end in June, it will be in July, the next fiscal year. Yeah, it will be good, but next fiscal year.
So
Fantastic.
we're gonna.
So we need a vote?
Yeah.
So how do you vote? Jones?
Yeah.
We need a motion.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, we get cut out with it. We need a motion first.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second by Kim.
Okay, Jones,
Yes.
Belden,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Amy, yes.
Great. The other stuff I have, again, just informational only. We're gonna do a lot of serious work on this tank through lowering it. We don't yet have a maintenance contract on this tank. I think we can definitely wait until next summer at the soonest because they're gonna be doing paint work and it's gonna be drained and cleaned throughout this process anyway. Sometime, we don't even necessarily need a maintenance contract right away. That's how we've always done it with this old tank. So in the next couple of years, we will probably want to get involved in a maintenance contract on this new tank. That's something coming up in a year or two, so we have plenty of time to plan for it. I would expect the price to be somewhere around what we pay for this tank, and maybe we can get a little bit of a discount, through having two tanks. So we'll look into that, but that's something that will be coming. The other thing is I just kind of want to put it on everyone's radar that with our water plant, we've known this was coming, going through this with Forest, it really points everything out that our water plant's in pretty rough shape. So everything we do is gonna depend on what Forest comes up with and if we were gonna build a new plant or not or whatever. But let's say that we don't build a new plant, and there's a good chance we won't. We're gonna have to decide if we still want to be able to produce water because the condition of our current treatment plant is getting so bad. We haven't really spent any money on our water treatment plant or wells other than just fixing stuff that breaks when it breaks. We haven't done any preventative maintenance. Our ground storage tank, we'd like to retire one, but the other one, it needs maintenance. It needs refurbished. The DNR has pointed this out. If we're going to continue using it at some point, we're gonna have to spend some money. Our filter is extremely rusty. That's one of these days, it's gonna spring a leak and then we're gonna be in a oh no moment. We're gonna have to deal with that. We haven't been doing much in the way of well maintenance. Basically, I know we've got some things that are just frankly don't work right now, but we haven't been in a position where we really wanted to spend a lot of money on our treatment plant because we don't use it. So just something to think about. If we want to be able to continue to use it in any facet, we're gonna have to start budgeting a lot more money than we are now. Like, our budget for water treatment plant is, very small. So when you start looking at rehabbing a tank and fixing pumps and, doing well maintenance, just to be able to use it like we do now, it's just gonna be a real reorganization of, how we spend money. I don't have any prices on this, but I can tell you, like 10 to 20,000 a year budgeted for that would probably be at like a minimum what we need to start throwing at it to get stuff going. Because like we could get a maintenance contract on our old ground storage tank and, some of these things can be phased in over the course of years. But I think we're at that critical point where we need to start deciding when we're done. When Forrest gives this presentation, we'll kind of decide, do we want to still make water? We've been with Xenia for 25 years or whatever, and we haven't ever really needed our wells during that time. They're awesome as a backup, and it feels good to have them, and it feels good to have that independence. But there is a cost to that we've kind of been just kind of letting slide. So anyway,
If that became our primary source, there's no way that the current, maintenance to service the town, that's so antiquated that it would be pointless to do anything to upgrade it. Like Tim Young sat back and told us about the wind turbine market is now, they're gutting the equipment inside of the mechanicals and still using the shells. That's nothing that could happen over here, correct?
You could,
You could.
that's part of what we're looking at.
Okay.
But how many millions to
Yeah, no, it
rehab it
costs
versus how many
nothing. Sure.
millions?
Yeah,
You still have an old, yep,
And you still have an old building.
Yeah.
But
the best it will probably be is a backup source in its current configuration. You know, so anyway, no decisions to be made there, just kind of thinking about where we want to go with this. We talked about retiring the wells, but we never really want to make that leap, you know, to put it all in perspective. Even if we said, okay, we're not gonna produce water anymore, my recommendation, we would still keep the wells. We would never get rid of them. We own them, they're not really costing us much just to have, you know. That always gives us the option to use them. So I would never suggest that we would just get rid of any ability to produce water. But for the cost, you know, it's a tough decision. It's not easy, and you know, it might be in our best interest if we're not going to produce water to stop, you know, sinking money into it. So anyway, just things to think about. We'll know more in the, you know, coming months.
what's your time frame on kind of wrapping up the?
couple months.
Okay.
Thank you, Benny.
Thanks.
Number 8, Paige Williams electric pole update.
I guess I can,
Okay, I guess. Do you have anybody?
I don't think, I think I'm it.
You're it.
You have.
I was hoping I wasn't yet, but, I guess I'm it. So, all right, I did send these to Sarah too, but these are probably
Yours are nicer.
nicer, bigger, or. This isn't really anything different than what you've seen before, but I just wanted to use it to talk from. So the plan that we had come up with was, you want extra?
Thanks.
So the plan we'd come up with was, so this for orientation, division on the west, north is up. Here's Paige's building. There's a pole right here. There's those red lines right at the bottom of those red lines. There's the existing utility pole that's been there for the beginning of time, and they're a really long time. So what we talked about doing, and initial conversation with Paige was, we thought he was okay with this, is get rid of the pole, put in a buried vault that trucks can drive over, make it a vehicle vault that can work. There's an existing pole over here, and then we'd run, I think you had underground already there, so we just replaced the pole with the underground vault. Big headache with all this, so just so you know, Paige's property line is this black line with the dots. That is Paige's property line. And you've got different people owning all kinds of things that are on the south side of Second. You know, Mike Tiernan, the Browns, Turtle Star, and so we're running, right now they're all aerial lines going off that pole to the back of those businesses. And so no pole, no aerial lines anymore. So now we need to go from that buried vault and run these red lines to each of the backs of those businesses. And we'd have to get easements, so like the Browns, they actually own a T shape, they own the back of their property, and then they own behind Tiernan's and Turtle Star. So now we're getting an easement from Paige, getting an easement from Browns, for Tiernan and Turtle Star. So we have to get a bunch of easements for all of this. So we thought, okay, we're golden, let's figure this out, make sure Paige is okay. Paige got back to Steve Brick and said, no, I don't like this plan, and the reason I don't like it is, sure, you solved my problem with the pole, But someday, maybe, I may want to expand on this though. Now keep in mind, there's a gas line already in here. There's a gas line easement. There's a G, yellow G.
But that's been moved.
No,
No,
It wasn't
just as serviceable.
Okay.
So there's a gas that comes through. You can kind of see the yellow gas. It comes through, goes north, and then it goes west.
So that's the yellow orange?
That's the yellow,
Okay.
the yellow. And then Northwestern Bell owns an easement in the orange box.
That yellow dash line is an easement.
Yeah, it's a big, huge easement.
And just to re-explain, with easement, you can't build a structure on it.
Yes, that's correct.
Can
So-
you share the easement?
Probably not. So I'm sure the gas people and the telephone people, they got an easement just for their uses, not for other entities' use.
Utilities share easements all the time, it's a very common thing.
It is, yes, but it depends on how the easement is written.
Okay.
So back to my story. So Paige said, I may want to expand this building to the north, and if I do that, this electrical fault may end up be where I want to put a building footing or a foundation. Now, you have to negotiate something with the gas main and the telephone and pay them to relocate their utilities, I would imagine, but that can be done. So what I've heard from Paige is that he really wants to have this electrical be over here on the right-hand side of this property, and then somehow snake the underground electric around the east side of his property and along the north side, so it's kind of comes like this and into each one of these. So I see three options for the board to think about. Option one is, as the attorneys have stated, this pole's been here forever, and there is a law or a rule or court cases or something saying if this utility's been here for so long, you see that with fences a lot. You put a fence up and it's there for long enough, that becomes an easement, that becomes a property line because it's been there forever. So one is to say, Paige, we're gonna keep the pole there, we're gonna keep it like it is. If you don't like it, sue us or take us, argue about that. Second option is to do this plan, but say to Paige, you know what, we'll, as part of the documents of memorializing this easement, we'll put in there a caveat saying, if and when you ever do expand your building and that is in the way, then we'll move it at our expense as a utility.
And that's the vault option?
That's the vault. So he's put in the vault, and so he's not backing in the hole.
Sure.
But if he ever expands the building far enough that that vault needs to get moved, then utility will move it at our expense rather than yours.
And what share of that work can we do?
Well, we get to option 3.
Okay.
And then we'll go,
Sure.
So option 3 would be, okay, let's move the pole or the vault over here along, his side, and then run the bury the electrical lines along his property line. And there was a little zigzag thing going to each one of those. So it's a lot more service lines having to be put in to do that, and a lot more bends to do that.
Cost, because I have 3 separate, or however many there were.
Yeah, so now, it'll have the cost. So, as far as how much of this could be done, with the vaults and the unburied services to the backs, and you'd have to redo the service entrances because, it's up here on the wall and, you're coming in buried. So, I would think given enough time, Pat, I think might be able to do some of this. I guess I don't know. I would think, I don't know time, I'm just saying expertise and,
Yeah.
would be able to do it.
Okay.
what kind of plays into it a little bit is the quality of ground we have there. Everything in the kitchen sink is buried in there. And it would be terrible. We can't just, you know what I mean? We'd be in there with a backhoe, digging up these big holes and trying to get in there. It's gonna be ugly to get back there.
So if we can do part of this work and it would be, you know, some sort of function of that building being repurposed for, you know, there's been discussions and work done to try to figure out if an Ace Hardware could go in there. To me, that's, you know, that's gonna drive some of my, you know, thought on to do this, you know, or to not, right? So, I guess is it best to just present these options to Paige right now and see where that's at? And if, you know, there's no forward movement on anything, then we can just let them know what the options are.
Yeah, I guess
Because if he's not even okay with the second one, the third one sounds very, sounds a lot more,
I guess I'm looking for what does the board want
Yep.
between those three options, and then
Gotcha.
I'll present that.
Okay.
Here's what the board would like, present that to Paige. If Paige says, no way, am I gonna do option whatever, then here's our other two options, and then talk about some more. But I'd like, you know, what the board's thoughts are. We've been talking about this a long time, and there's, like I said, I see three options. Maybe somebody's got a fourth.
Has it been presented to him that we could just keep it there from a legal perspective, the way it is?
Yeah,
To me, it seems like, I mean, if he comes up with a building plan saying, I wanna, I think then we talk. And I don't know that, I mean, he shouldn't share part of that cost. If he'll have to move the gas line, he'll pay that cost to do it, that too. But I don't know why we would look at spending money, because just removing the pole isn't gonna make him happy. So why do anything without any plans to expand?
well,
When he comes with a plan to expand, then we can talk.
yeah, the pole removal is because he's put garage doors on the north side, and he's worried about a vehicle running into that pole. That's his concern today.
Then he should be okay with option 2 and we just.
that's where I'm going. If there were going to be if the building's going to move forward as a redevelopment project, and Ace Hardware, I can see where, you know.
I don't think I would commit to moving it at our expense without seeing a
Correct.
building plan.
Yeah.
I think at this point, I would say option 2 is, or we're gonna go ahead and remove the pole and we'll talk. When you're gonna build a building, then we'll talk. I wouldn't say that.
Well, what I'm saying, I don't even know that we do anything yet
I would agree with that.
if
too.
there's not you know what I mean? I'm fine. I totally wish, I don't agree with the concept that just because something's been wrong for 20 years that, you know, the government should go squat on people's personal property. I think that's crap to me. But anyway, that's another issue. But if nothing's changing as of right now, then I don't know that we, you know,
Do anything.
well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, I'm not sure that the second option, you presented that to him and it wasn't
Yeah,
positive.
just because he is, well, Steve Brick.
Okay,
I called Paige and I did not get a return call
Okay.
from him.
So basically just worry about it when we get to.
that's just my own opinion. If there's going to be a redevelopment on the traffic, and there's gonna be a bunch of money spent on that building to repurpose it as an Ace Hardware, I would like to be a good neighbor and a partner to move the pole at our cost. It's our issue. But if it's sitting there, we're not sure, he's not truly comfortable with this solution, then maybe we've got the options. I think we've done the work and we're sitting here. Our guys can help with some of it for option 2, so we're being part of the solution. I think we've got a lot of good information, so I think we need to hear from him what he plans to do, is what,
So
I
maybe,
mean, I'm asked, that's what I'm saying.
I was hoping he'd be at the board meeting.
Yeah, I asked him to come, yeah.
So maybe do you want me to present, here's our three options, and please come to the next board meeting and
Well,
discuss those?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. I don't know what everybody else is thinking, but,
I mean, are we really entertaining option 3 right now at all?
I think it was too cost prohibitive, wasn't it? I mean, or not too, but.
No, it's more, but it's not prohibitive.
I mean, is it double?
No, it's not double. Your vault is the same cost regardless. You just have more length in your services, so.
So maybe, if you're,
Some of the services get pretty long if we would put it back here too. Like,
Yeah, Tierney's, that's a long ways.
that's a long way to run, and if you're probably gonna look at a little line loss, there, we're gonna lose a little frontage on that. That is a long ways to go.
I think it's fair to give him this three option, ask him to come.
Well,
Be
that or,
welcome to the discussion.
but I mean, if he's planning on doing something in the next month, then, you know, I'm not saying we commit to anything tonight, but, I mean, Forrest can, if you're comfortable, contact.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, the question for Paige is, what are your plans for this property to the north?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
yeah,
What's your plans?
time
for it?
frame and all
The
that.
time frame, and here's the three options we're looking at, what you need.
Yeah, and if number 3 is not that much drastically different than 2 and it's doable, we can help with it, and that's getting, you know, renovated and put back into use as a you know, hardware store, then to me, that's a big deal for our town to have. You know, you can't buy a hammer in town right now. Anyway, that's it.
Sounds good.
Was,
And then we can come back at the next meeting and, you know, not to make you have to come out here, but you could email us in between or Ash or whatever. And
Well, I'll be here anyway to talk about the water tower.
okay, so I just think you've got a lot of good, that's the last thing we want to talk about anymore.
I think he never missed the meeting, you know.
One thing that was fluid was squaring off that piece of property that's close to this,
Oh, there in the lower right corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not had any discussions. But yeah, that's a good point.
But if number 3 is something that interests him and there's, you know, we require drill to get it going, then we'll, yeah, let him kind of figure out where things are at. Off your option.
Brian, call him again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9, utility, property, and casualty insurance proposals. Denise.
Good evening. You should all have in your packet a 2-page table that looks similar to this. That table summarizes the 70-some pages in your renewal proposal. You did ask for bids this year for the property and casualty insurance, and our agency was the only bid that was received. So we do have access to also quote ICAP and IMWCA, which is part of the Iowa League of Cities. So we did also reach out to them to see if they would be interested in giving an alternative bid to EMC. I know that keeping costs low is important. They declined to bid on the municipal utilities or on the city this year.
So did they give a reason why?
They will not give a bid on a utility without the city in conjunction with that. And
That's not true, because I talked to them.
this year, they were not willing to give a bid on this city either. So
Because I talked to Holmes Murphy and to ICAP. In fact, I had a phone meeting with 3 other guys. I just wondered what the reasoning was that they gave you, but that's not the reasoning I got.
there were several reasons. At this point, they've declined to offer a bid. It's something we could look at in the future. Primarily with ICAP this year, from the city's perspective, they felt like the claims that we have incurred over the last 3 years were too high for them to consider a quote. Frankly, they are concerned. They brought up the fact that they are requested to bid every single year. And over the last 6 years, they've been requested to come up with a bid and present a proposal. Every year it's been denied. It's a lot of work for them to put all that together and do all the research to make sure they have all the information correct, to have it denied every single year. So that was a concern they had. And they were very frank and honest with us. We work with them on a lot of other cities and counties, so have a good working relationship, so they were pretty honest about, moving forward with this. And I kept quite honestly said, next year, we'll take a look at it, but, after 3 years of our hail damage, that'll fall off, so it's probably a more appealing, consideration than
So-
it is this year.
The other issues with, none of them were on the utility side, were they? They were on the city side?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. For the hail, primarily the claim history is on the city side.
Okay, okay.
The utilities has a pretty good claim history overall, so. Anything else concerning that anyone had questions on? Otherwise, I'll jump into the spread our information here. As you can see on the left-hand column, there's each of your lines of coverage, bolded for you. And then, the second column shows what those lines of coverage cost last year. Column 3 is a comparison for this year's coverages. You can see the bulk of your overall premium year over year is reduced, except for property and then the boiler equipment breakdown coverage. Those are the two that increased and are driving the overall increase for the year. Column 6, where it's highlighted in green if you have color, that is an alternative quote that would increase your deductible to $25,000. This year it'll be a $10,000 deductible, but if you were interested in reducing the overall cost, you could look at a $25,000 deductible, and that would help with some savings with premium. I do need to caveat that under the commercial output, we have the cost at $28,514, and it's actually $28,656. So there's an increase of $142 that I just needed to clarify that. The boiler equipment and breakdown policy is a 3-year policy term, and that's up for renewal this year. So it was at a fixed rate for the last 3 years. So they adjusted it by 45% to accommodate for the increases in overall property over the last 3 years. So that's why it jumped considerably, but then that would be a fixed rate over the next 3 years. The property coverage increased primarily because we added the water tower. So that was a large increase just to accommodate that. I did also provide, I think Sarah handed it out here tonight. There's 3 different options for deductible. If you'd like to look at higher deductibles to reduce the overall premium for this year, you can certainly do that. There's an increased deductible option for both the commercial output and also the property.
What causes the total property and the open and blanket limit of insurance to go up so much under property?
The blanket limit of insurance is all of your property, each individual limit for each building.
So why would it go up
together.
50% in a year?
We added the water tower, and that was one large driver on that. But then every building just increased as well.
What was the water tower cost?
The construction,
Yeah,
around 2 million.
was it just the water tower itself?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact number that we added for that.
That's the difference between the two. 2.1. Didn't we increase the deductible last year as well to reduce cost?
I think you do.
Yes.
I had Ash look this up to see what EMC's was 5 years ago, and was it 60,000? So it's almost doubled in 5 years. So our water revenue, our revenue's gonna go up 60 grand ballpark, the numbers.
Rough numbers.
The rate increase, so we got 60,000, this is gonna chew up 20% of that, 25% of it, raises, health insurance, I mean, all those things. I'm just saying, it's just something to keep in mind, that,
Yes, yeah,
you know.
still okay.
No, I'm with you, it's just,
I will
when
say
people come and
that,
ask if we have money for this or money for that.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of, we have other issues to worry about too, like you said, the health insurance.
Yeah,
Well, like it is-
I'm just saying, it chews away at that
Yeah.
it chews away at that 60,000, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Just changing nothing, you know?
There's no place of value, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, just,
So my thought is, can we table this till next month? I'd like to look at this more.
your policy with,
It's about April 1st.
what does the city council do?
They're gonna, they discuss it and all the stuff, but they need that kind of deductible bracket, so we're gonna give it to them
This
on
wasn't
the
in the packet,
21st.
but this one wasn't in the packet, was it?
Yeah,
no,
no,
Is this what you're wanting to look at, Kim?
I don't wanna look at it all. I mean, I wanna go through this
Okay.
and kind of look at it. I wanna read it.
Is there a special meeting that's supposed to happen between the two groups this month or not?
not that I know of.
Okay. I couldn't remember how that was left with Dick or not.
We'll have to make a decision since it's coming up in April. You won't be able to do it.
The only way I can be able to do it is if we have a special meeting.
I'm fine with that, if you wanna do that.
That's up to you guys.
I can't jump to a $50,000 deductible to only have us go up 3% right now without, like you said, kind of thinking about it. That's a heck of a jump. You know, we went from, I think it was 5,000 last year to 10 or something like that. So, I mean, I understand that we can, whatever you wanna call it, self-insure ourselves a little bit on the deductible side, but what about next year, you know? I mean, are there other parts of the policy that are negotiable or not?
That was gonna be my question.
I don't know what would be negotiable, and I mean, short of increasing your deductible to offset and, like you said, self-insure a little bit more. These are the coverages that you really need as a city to protect yourself and the utility to protect yourself. And I would even argue that your cybers should be increased, but I also understand that there's only limited resources, but a lot of cities, utilities are getting hit with cyber attacks, and it's becoming more of a concern, but, you can only do what you can do, so protect yourself in the best way that you can. We've gone through, Ash and Sarah and I, to make sure that everything's accurate, building-wise, vehicle-wise, driver-wise. We've gone back through everything to make sure that it's as accurate as possibly it can be.
It's up to you guys.
I'd be fine sitting on until next Thursday. I mean, that's up to you. If that gives you enough time.
Oh, I got plenty of time.
I don't know if I read it, I'd understand it anyway, it's so vast.
And I,
Sometimes.
right up the street, I'm happy to entertain any of you at any point with questions that you have. Happy to explain as much as you want.
I know with my insurance bills and my own personal stuff, this is nothing different than what I'm saying either. I don't,
I just think.
whether we like it or not, doesn't really matter.
I get it, I'm just saying, I don't wanna jump, I'd like to be able to look at the deductible cuts as well, because, I don't know. I think we were at 20 or 25 on the city side a while ago, I don't know, is that still, or what do they have for deductibles on the city side?
They have the same, I think.
They had a $5,000 deductible, and they're looking at raising that this year as well.
So I kinda agree with Kevin, just to pump the brakes and give it a reach, but.
Next week.
Nobody like it choose, but you have to.
I would like to look at it. I mean,
Don't have a choice, it's a bill, but I mean, trying to understand some of the components doesn't hurt either.
and I know all insurances go up. I know that, but I want to be able to sit and look at some things.
One thing I'd like to know is how often do we hit our deductible each year?
We increased it last
You
year.
know, I mean, how many times we have claims and hit that?
Yeah, the only claim is clean land, just that, on the utility side, we're good with claim.
So,
City is different, but we just had that hail.
I mean,
Besides that, we're good.
I mean,
I know, that's why.
that seems like 5,000, I mean, 5,000 seems like a really low.
And I get this,
Because I-
For a
Know that.
city entity, you know, for an entity, that, I mean, some people have $5,000 deductibles, just an individual. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why you build up some reserves to handle emergency situations where you might need to have small outlays of money. It is kind of a self insurance type of situation if you build up enough of your own capital so you can handle small things that happen. I think that our deductible is pretty high, or pretty low, and we could look at increasing that.
I'm good if you go to 25, so.
here's a question, I mean, on that, so you say this only goes up 3% or 3.8% this year, then what happens next year, and you've already raised it to 50, right? That's a dead horse, so how do what do you mitigate to raise, to stop the increase next year, right? I mean, you're paying for somebody else's claim and an insurance increase.
So how much of this increase was due to the increase in the size of our property and things?
Well, you can see it right here.
Right.
Yeah, you can see half of it is from the water tower that you mentioned, so.
Yeah, you got the water tower, that.
But all I'm saying is after next year, then what? It goes up another 15%. I mean, you can't raise the deductible any higher than 50?
No, just goes out and shows.
No, I don't mean that. I'm just saying
I'm saying,
you've moved all of your needles. You can't do anything
I'm
else.
saying
right?
even if there was zero increase this year, I'd still look at the deductibles and say, I want to look at that independently. We keep a bunch of cash reserves, and why do we do that? And what's that allow us to do if we have good cash reserves?
Yeah.
It allows us to not have quite as much insurance,
If
because
we're
we
gonna wait
cover small.
a week, could we get maybe some claim history?
Absolutely.
And then we could make a better decision on whether we should raise our deductible. That's really about our only option here, is we either raise our deductible.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
So
say.
maybe just a little information on like last year, 5 years claim history or something.
I think 3 years ago with the hail was.
Yeah,
exactly what
and
Sarah
my
said.
recollection
It's
is
been
the
there
hail
most
thing is what
recently.
got us a little bit off. Besides that, we don't have a lot of really claims.
I mean, I did the same thing with
Utilities.
mine, I raised all my deductibles
And if
Chris,
you,
all I'm saying is you did that, I've done that.
Yep.
And we do that here. You
yeah,
max out, you raise it to 50,000, okay? Then what happens next year when the insurance goes up another 15%? Where do you cut then? You can't, right? You've already. Yeah, so is there a more scientific approach that?
Well, you do the same thing every
Just
year.
get
You make-
stuck.
You make a decision every year. You either pay it or you raise your deductible and you gotta bring it down a little bit.
But you can't raise it after this year, is what I'm saying.
I'm sure if you were wanting to raise it to 100, they'd be open to that.
yeah, I suppose, but.
Pretty sure you,
But why
So you don't have insurance, right?
Insurance companies like it that you're willing to self-insure to it.
But you can also look at the savings between, I mean, it's 10 grand a year, going from 10,000 to.
This year.
Just
That's
under
correct.
25.
This, what about next? That's all I'm getting at. is-
It'll probably.
It would be-
some kind of territory, yeah.
I think it would be fair enough to go to 25,000 deductible. So the difference between last year and this year won't be that much. So that's the fair way to go around is to go to 25,000 deductible. And I agree with.
We're really looking to insure ourselves against catastrophe.
Right, exactly right. That's the whole deal.
And
That's
this,
what property is.
you blade in the middle, instead of going to 50, you stay with 10, you go to 25. you're in good shape. I agree with Neil on the cash reserves, and we are having a good cash reserve, to be able to go into anything with able to cover. We don't have a lot of claims on the utilities, that I know, except that I hear that. So to be fair to you, if you wanna go with 25,000, that would be a good way to do it.
Here's another thought too. Your wind hail deductible is automatically 1%. The bulk of claims are going to be wind or hail claims. There's fewer fire or theft or those kinds of claims. So you're already paying a higher deductible for the most likely claims. So raising your deductible on all the other potential perils is, you're gonna already spend more money on a wind or hail claim. So that's just another thought.
Yeah, I'd be willing to go with the 25,000.
Yeah, that's a good approach, as suggested by me, it's a good approach. If you wanna get it over with it.
Or do you wanna look at the reserves and see?
Reserve is strong.
Well, no, I mean, to his point, how much do you self-insure?
Yeah,
What's a
the
responsible
reserves,
number?
look at claim history.
Claim history, tell you whether it's worth doing or not. But one claim in the last 3 years would kind of make you think that.
That's already what it is, as
Right.
far
I'm
as.
trying to remember, I think it's
Maybe.
been, I don't
That
think we
claim
had
was-
claims the last 2 years, so the 30 years ago, maybe 70,000 for the hail
For the
damage.
hail, that's all we got on the utility side. City side, I would be $1, and I would take it with.
But that's a different line, right?
I'm just,
That coverage for that deductible.
Yes, now it is, they've instituted the 1% since that time, so,
So the 5 or 10 or 25 is all everything else.
correct.
So
you go higher.
that claim, that's what I want to isolate, the claim history of everything that's not wind and hail.
Okay, does tornadoes include the wind and hail?
Yes. You have two buildings that would be a higher value than a 25,000, or that would not even be a $25,000 cost. So if you went to a $25,000 wind deductible, that would cover all of your perils, any kind of claim that you would have. Because the 1% on the two buildings that are over 2 million, one's valued at 2.4 million, one's valued at 2.1 million. So if you went to a $25,000 deductible, that would be your deductible for any claim.
So is the 2.1, is that the water tower we're talking
Yes.
about? And how much hail damage does water tower?
Oh, and I don't think we're
Maybe
worried
we
about
have to
burning
take
down.
off the bottom.
I don't think we're worried about the water tower burning down.
Well, no, I'm talking about hail damage.
No, I know.
Okay, my question is, because of Greenfield having the tornado, are we covered good enough if a tornado would hit Stuart?
If a tornado came through and hit Stuart, it would be a single incident. So the out-of-pocket right now would be higher for those two, the filter house and the water tower. And then there would be all other perils, one-time deductible of 5,000. So if you increase that to 25, anything that was hit would be, you would pay 25,000 and everything else would be covered.
When it says 1% for wind and hail, what is that exactly mean?
It's 1% of the overall cost of the building. To rebuild that building, how much would it cost?
Okay.
And you would pay 1% of that cost.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, I just wanted. So in that scenario, tornado takes down the water tower, we pay 1% to rebuild it.
Correct.
Or hail damage, which, I don't know how much hail damage you do in the water tower. That's why I'm looking at, I would go with the higher deductible, whether it's 25 or 50 you pay.
And I will confirm for you, Kent, EMC does a great job of making sure that our buildings are valued to their fullest. So that
Charges so much.
in the event of a loss, they are properly insured so that you can rebuild everything that you've lost.
I just know a lot of people in Greenfield weren't covered good
Adequately.
enough, yes.
I would agree. And we don't want that to happen in this
Right,
city.
right.
So we can verify that these coverages and these everything that's listed is going to be able to be replaced at full value.
I mean, I hope to God we never get a tornado.
And
You know,
then
but you never know with the weather anymore.
this full packet shows every building you own, and it shows the value that they assign to that. They have
That's why I
people on
would,
staff that will have gone back through and verified that we have enough valuation for each building.
that's why I would like to hold on and look at this. But that's my opinion.
And I want to add something that we get dividend from EMC this year, like $11,000 on the utility side and $17,000 on the city side. To give you credit.
So that 11 is off of the 109, right?
Yes.
Okay. But still, it's still going up. It's not-
It's going up, and
Why
we're
don't
gonna,
we get 109 and then we'll give them?
I'm not advocating for insurance, you know,
I know.
insurance since I was born, so, but I have to give credit.
Well, where-
Yes, we see $17,000 on the city side, $11,000 on the utility side. I just got the two checks.
And that's for good experience.
Yes.
So, what's everybody's thoughts on 50? I'm just asking. I don't see any, if you're talking about this type of catastrophic damage, what's the difference between 25 and 50? If you're saving,
I don't know, not sure.
10,000 in difference, right?
Go for it.
I'm asking.
I am answering.
For not wanting to meet again, that's fine. If you want to meet again, to look at stuff, that's fine. I just don't like the increase in that stuff because we didn't do anything.
Because 50 really will take you actually lower than what you think.
That's 4% increase, right?
It's 3.8.
Yeah.
So that's close to 30. That's. If you. Yeah, that's kind of. That's fine if you want to make a motion for 50.
I'm trying to.
The other consideration though is you're saving 3,000 on property, you're saving 2,000 on commercial output with the potential to spend 25,000 more if there's a claim. So your savings, if there is a claim, really doesn't offset what you're gonna spend out.
Yeah, you're just going with your risk tolerance.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know why, yeah, I think our risk tolerance should be higher than what it is.
I'm fine with that
It's
because
close. Yeah.
if you're gonna replace the water tower, 50,000, I mean, what's
That's a drop in.
yeah, it doesn't matter, and you're sitting on reserves to do it.
I'm good.
Probability of that happening, I mean,
Can there be a difference in what we do with property versus commercial output with the deductibles?
Yes.
And so that's what I'm curious, like claim wise, what we get for claims for property versus the commercial output, doesn't it, like, maybe one is good at 50 and the other one might be good at 25. Not, I mean, I just don't know enough information to know.
From health administration, I don't see it make no difference. Because the only one you're gonna get hit with the 50 is gonna be the one. The rest is gonna be the same. As far as I understand, it's, you say that the 25,000 will be applied to just the water tower.
The 1%.
The 1%,
Yes.
yeah.
But both of the two buildings that
Just,
you'd have a 1% assigned to,
yeah,
they would both fall under the $25,000 deductible. So you would have a one-time $25,000
Yes.
deductible or
I
a
got you.
one-time bill.
I got you, I hope that will answer.
So what all is covered in the commercial output?
That is like a high-end property, so newer facilities and things like that would be covered under commercial output because it's a lower rate for newer items.
I'm just saying, change it next year, you know, look at it again next year, and I don't know.
Yeah, 50 is good.
I would make a motion for
Make a motion for 50?
Yep.
Okay. Move by that, to go with $50,000, you know.
Not trying to rush somebody.
So
And is that on hold?
do we know what 50 does versus 25? I mean, we only have 25 on here, right, as an illustration?
On this deductible option
Oh, sorry.
page?
We just got that, that wasn't in the package.
So
You're separate on the other side.
you would be at 99,450.
That's the 3.8.
96.
Yeah, that's the 4% increase.
It's about a $10,000 annual difference.
Less,
So it's about 10,000 difference annually based on this, 109 versus 99.
And so last year was what, 95 or 96?
last year was 96.
So that's fair, isn't it?
Okay, then we have a motion.
I'm just asking. I'm good with that too, in a second.
We have a second. I don't know. So,
If he's done with questions, I'll second it, but I'm not gonna rush for a vote
Brian,
Kim?
second.
if, Kim? No, one time,
It's whatever you guys.
The only thing that's going through my head is there's a much bigger drop on a much smaller.
Are you looking at the summary, or are you looking at it?
If you, the drop in the premium, for our, in the property, going to a $25,000 deductible, the property coverage there is like,
You're saying it drops less for the commercial outlet, right?
yes,
Yeah,
for
I'm with you.
for a much higher amount that you're covering. That was kind of my question.
But we haven't had a claim on it anyway, so, I mean, there's not been a claim in this, right, history, so,
Yeah, your position is better than the city,
gotcha.
because you don't have claims. So if it's city, I would do go with it. Because-
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, I'll second the-
So second, moved by Dan, second by Belden.
Okay, how you vote? Jones?
Yes.
Belden?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Amy? No.
We're going with $50,000 deductibles on both lines, the
Yes.
property and commercial output.
It's the 99,470. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Any of you have questions, you're welcome to stop by the office anytime. I'm happy to answer anything I can for you.
Thank you.
Number 10, Quest Site Solutions, Iowa Area Development Agency Certified Site.
I'm not bringing you any handouts to add your time. I can send you things later, so.
Thank you for being patient.
No worries. I'm a little bit at your mercy to find out if you just want me to talk about our certified site program. I'm with, again, Amy Coolers, I'm with the Iowa Economic Development Authority, so state government, economic development. And, we just summarize what our program is with the certified site. I keep looking at you, Brian, just because Sarah said that you were with me.
I asked the board if it was okay to have you come out with, is there a possibility for us to mimic something like that, what Van Meter did?
As far as the certification or the
The whole
land.
process,
use,
our
yeah,
economic
yeah.
development guy is back here too,
Okay.
works for the city, so if you guys could connect, that'd be great, but just,
Yeah.
what's the cost to do this? I think Forrest
It's
laughed.
$1 million question.
I don't think it says $1 million.
Nope. The process itself is, and you have Quest Site Solutions on there, that's because we as a state don't self-certify. We contract with it, it's actually a site selection firm, that's what their main job is, they work with large companies all over the country and they help them find their ideal sites. They also have an economic development arm, which is where we come in, we're one of the states that they work with to help do a certification program. Ours is very robust. We are really, what you're doing is you're taking a set amount of acres. The minimum amount of acres you can do is, if you have a single user site, you can have a 25 acre site as your minimum if you want to make that an industrial park. So multiple users, 50 acres is your minimum that you can do. So those are those two base levels. And then everything that we do is based really on that acreage, what your utility capacities are for that land. Depends, again, all the infrastructure depends on what size that acreage is. The due diligence things that we do are things that would be done on any parcel of land that was gonna be developed. It's your phase one, your geotechnical survey, archaeological survey, wetlands delineation. So there's just a whole gamut of things, a title search, boundary survey, just so that the standard things you would do on a parcel of land that you were going to develop would all be the same things that we do for that. We don't cover those costs at the state. What we cover is all the certification costs as far as the consultant. So we work strictly with them. You don't have to worry about any of their expertise having to pay for that because we do that. It's about a year process. We have 2 applications per year. One started in the beginning of the year, and then we'll have another one will start in August.
Okay, so you mean 2 application periods?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of rolling. We've done that every year. Included with that, if you're interested in doing a site, and one of the most difficult things we run into with sites applicants is that they're a lot of what we're dealing with is ag land, basically always ag land. Even if the city owns it, it's usually leased for crops. So in many cases, sometimes we'll have, especially with the larger sites, we'll have multiple landowners that they have to get options on or listing agreements with. Sometimes it's not difficult, sometimes it's hard because every landowner maybe has a different idea. So we've got some thresholds that they need to go by. But so that's the part. So once you get past the availability part, you've got control of that land, then the rest of it kind of falls into place after that. There is cost involved. Again, depending on how big of a site it is. We have a site that we've just had some inquiries from that's almost 800 acres. And their quotes that they've got a couple quotes from engineering firms, and their due diligence for all the surveys was gonna be right at about 200,000.
Okay.
Most of our sites are much smaller than that. That would be a really nice size site. They're going to be it's not a mega site, because what we call a mega site is a site that's over 1,000 acres that's really designed for a single user. So we're talking a car manufacturing company, some really large manufacturing company. Most of our sites are smaller, and so they're easier to deal with. But so the costs will vary. I haven't done a survey in the last few years, and costs have increased as your insurance went up. So I don't have a good record, but I would say if you're looking at a minimum acreage rule of thumb at that 50 for 50 acres, 25 acres per site, 50, you're probably still going to be looking at between right around 40 to 60,000. And again, that's just my kind of what I've seen.
You said 25 to 50
Acres. So we have 2 categories. We have sites and parks. So if you're just gonna certify a site for a single user, you just want one company. You just want one company to come and land on that site.
Well, I guess, and I don't mean to interrupt,
No.
but on the Van Meter side, I think it was closer to 400 acres, right?
Right.
So why would we look at a 25 to 50?
You wouldn't have to. I'm just
Okay,
giving you an example.
Okay,
You
sure.
can certify as much as you have available to certify, and
My intent was to try to attract a data center. You see all this
Okay.
international money coming to, the Midwest to build data centers.
there are a lot of data centers.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, they're
Yeah.
huge, they're a huge boon for the city on the valuation side, and they used to use a lot of water, and so that was us, but
Yeah.
now they're moving away from that.
They are self-contained, a lot of them, so they're reusing that water, and so they're not needing to draw as much. Their biggest pull is the electric.
And our utility superintendent said that, SIPCO gets the first, what's that structure?
No, they would come in. I tried to look at it earlier today. It's a little confusing, their rules on it, but they would come in and assist with anything.
But I mean,
As far as structure,
would they be a data center comes in, we got a certified site, are they our customer or SIPCO's? I thought you mentioned at the last meeting they would be a SIPCO, or they would get a portion of that or something.
we would get a portion of it, but it would be a central customer. Chances are, the data center, we're gonna build a new substation. A substation, $20 million.
So you'll have to have them.
So you gotta
To support
have them.
Do we have 25 to 50 acres within our service area that we?
No,
We
that
don't
I
have.
know.
I mean, we've got 2 other utilities.
Not that I know.
Yeah.
Unless farm was willing.
We have it.
Well, no, the tariffs, right, or
But
the territory.
Territories are already decided, so that's my question is there even a site that big that on our end, we could even look at it,
Well,
because they
and
wouldn't be a customer.
We have certified sites with multiple utilities, because we run into that
Yeah.
everywhere. And so we will have some where there's a portion that's an REC, some that's a
Yeah.
municipal, some
What
that's
he's
not.
getting is the
some-
lines drawn here, almost where the farm ground starts. In
Correct.
some cases, we've got
Yeah.
we've got 3 different utilities servicing the same.
Right,
On my side of the road, it's the
Yeah.
county, and on the other side of the road, it's the city.
correct.
So it seems like more of maybe a city type of project than
It
it
might be.
would be a utility type of project.
Where's whose territory is behind Country Kitchen? Huh? Earhart's, yeah, or behind McDonald's. Is that our territory or?
Behind McDonald's is ours.
But see, there's only 80 acres there. I mean, I was thinking that this would be something that could be looked at. Matt's talked about this for a couple of years, our development corporation as well.
It depends on if they're going to want to do a single data center or if they're gonna do a complex. I think Van Meter, if I remember correctly, they were already past certification by the time but they had all their due diligence and everything done, but some of those studies had to be done again because they had gone past that certification expiration.
It sat for what, 10 years?
It was certified, it started in 2012 before I ever started with the program, and I think it was certified in 16, is it technical, or sorry, 14, so 14. It's, at that time, they were certified for 5 years. So yeah, it was sitting since about 19, without certification. But I think they're also having a complex. If I remember reading about that, they're going to have more than one data center footprint on that land. So and there's a lot of companies out there that do data centers. It's not just the Microsofts and the Apples and Google, Meta, whoever, whatever, Facebook. But there's a lot of companies out there that do that. And then they're pretty structured in what they do, the data centers, to attract those. We, as a state, as IEDA, our economic development, we don't have incentives for data centers. We just never have. It never falls into our purview. There are some Department of Revenue through the state of Iowa. They have different tax credits and things like that you can pull into. They have control of that. We really don't have much say about any of that, but we can help facilitate conversations, for example. There are benefits to being certified if you're gonna have to be putting roadways in, a large interchange or something. If you needed something on the interstate, for heaven forbid, that's a long process. But there is money through the Department of Transportation through their RISE program, which is, they're really, I can't remember what it all stands for, but it's a roadway transportation subsidy that you would get, and depending on how many acres you have, that subsidy goes up, so you'll be paying less to have that infrastructure put in. They're granting you or offsetting some portion of those costs.
So I guess, what does the community do? Is it usually the city or the utilities, or does it matter, I guess, or can it be a partnership? In our community, we've got a city council, we're obviously the utility board side, but
It's all across the board. We
Okay.
have had a landowner themselves take it through, and then they've partnered with an engineering firm that they've hired to kind of do all.
so where do you fit within that?
I
When
am-
an engineering firm comes in.
Yeah, we don't deal with the engineering firms. We ask you because you would probably, step back a minute. It can be, in most cases, what I deal with are economic development organizations. So it could be the city, it could be a county economic development organization. That's just mainly who we do. And then they pull their team together, their utility people, and if the landowner wants to be involved, they pull them in as well. Otherwise, the landowners most of the time just kind of say, just make it happen for us and keep us apprised of what's going on. But you create your own team, but you put the quotes out. We always encourage you to get at least 2 or 3 quotes for the engineering.
Different engineering firms.
Yes, and I have kind of a list of engineering firms that other sites have used to go. And they're mostly your standards that you know in the state. And if you've got an engineering firm that you already have a contract with the city that you want to use, that's fine too. It's up to you. You just want to be able to kind of do apples to apples with the price and we have a guidebook that's what I would be happy to send you. I can send it to Sarah and then she can send it out if you guys are interested. And that has everything from nuts to bolts as to what the certification entails.
So who drives this? Who oversees this to make sure it gets done?
That's Quest. That's our third-party certification. They're in South Carolina. What will happen if you,
There's no one local that does this?
No, we contract for the whole state
Okay.
for certification. So if you wanted to be a certified certified in the state of Iowa with our program, you'd have to go through Quest. And again, we pay all those costs. And we pay all the consulting costs. You don't have to do anything with that. And what happens is once you have decided you're going to do this, we immediately set up monthly meetings with you, whatever your team consists of. And between Quest and myself and your team, and we kind of go through the process with you. We talk over all the issues you might be having, questions about anything, and we work very closely with you and do a lot of hand holding through this process. Because we've had a couple organizations that have been really savvy about development, and most of them haven't gone through anything like this before. So that's normal, and so we provide all of that information. Quest is always available. Once, they're available for a phone call anytime.
And that's no cost to.
No
the
cost
city
to you.
utility.
The only thing you're paying for is everything that goes into the actual due diligence. So all those engineering surveys that have to be done.
And we get that over, you said it takes about a year to do this?
It takes a year. There's an so say for example, we kicked off this year. Usually we do it like the first week in January. This year we did it a little earlier, but the application is due the end of June.
Okay.
So all the due diligence and everything has to be done within the 6 months. Before that application is due, Quest will come out, they fly out, and then we do site visits. We do regular, pretend I am a person coming to look at a piece of land that you have because I have a company that's interested in it. And we go through a whole site visit with you, which is really educational. It's very, I like them. Every time I go, I just like them. But just super educational. And so then they get a review. We come out, we want to look at the site, we go around the community, look at the attributes of the community, just everything you would do at a regular site visit. And then they go back and they do some final review. If there's any questions, you get that information to us, the application goes in, and then it starts a whole review process on your part. And there's usually, we've never had a certified site that's provided everything correctly the first time or all the information. We've always had follow-ups. So that does take a while after that. It can take us little time after that 6 months once you have the application submitted. And Quest has about, I want to say, up to 60 to 90 days to review that. Usually they do it much quicker, but they've got that timeline. And then after that, if everything's great, you could be, if you started in January, feasible that you could be certifying in September or October. And again, most people have a little bit more time than that, but that's how that rolls. Again, I don't know if you have specific questions on anything.
You have a lot of information.
It's very
very
doable,
helpful.
and we only do one kickoff a year now, but if you're interested as well, we always record the sessions. So if you're interested in just watching the kickoff, which is what we always ask every applicants to do, to attend the kickoff webinar. And it just is, Quest presents that, so they go over all the components that are needed during the certification. So I'd be happy to send that, but I'll actually have to send a link to you. And I think they're individual links, I'm gonna have to figure out, but.
When we start this process, I don't know, because I've never been through it, you get cold feet and want to shut it down. Shut it down or what?
You certainly can at any time.
Has
And
that happened before?
yes,
Okay.
it does happen, or it happens you submit your application and for whatever instance, you have a 30-acre site and there's a natural gas line runs through the middle of it. Chances are we're just gonna say, this isn't gonna work for you because it's not enough land for natural gas line to be moved. Now, if you were a 900-acre site, natural gas may say, yes, we will move that because there's gonna be some business here, if it's a distribution line, it's hard to say, but it's, so we pick people out right away, but that rarely happens. I mean, we've done that twice.
Who contacts the willing parties to see who's willing to do that?
As far as the landowners
Yeah,
or,
who does
that would
that?
be on the applicant. So let's say you're the applicant, you would wanna start talking to those landowners, just start kicking the tires up a little bit, and you say you don't have the money, or see what's in your territory if you wanna specifically look at the municipal, see what's available or what you think's out there, and then just start kind of quiet conversations with them, the landowners, and see if they'd let you know, and sometimes they say no, and it sits in their noggin for 6 months, and all of a sudden they come back and say, well, maybe that's not such a bad idea. So it's just really opening up the door to those conversations.
to me, I'm all in if it's in our territory. I'd like to pursue this, look at it, evaluate it, you know. This is gonna be a huge deal for a little town of Van Meter. From evaluation on the city side, and if we could get this from a power and water source, it would help us tremendously, but in our territory, you know, as we talked about. That's gonna
It's your
limit us.
utility, your electric, so.
Yeah, so, I
But
mean,
if it's a partnership with the city, it
Yeah.
wouldn't all have to be in there, because the city's got another angle at some point, they
Sure.
should property tax. 'Cause so
if it's big enough,
if you look by McDonald's and you look behind what they just bought for the new truck
Yeah.
stop, same family owns all that,
Yeah,
they're
right.
city willing
Yeah.
sellers.
Yeah.
So you might be talking 100 acres or more.
And if it's a park, a site has to be contiguous for the most part, you have to have, but if it's a park does not necessarily have to, each parcel doesn't have to touch the other parcel.
Okay.
You can just name the whole thing Stuart Industrial Park and have a road going through the middle, and you could have, you know, easements here or whatever, so there's a lot of things that you can do, and those are all the types of questions, even if you want, if you start identifying some of those things, kind of whispering in the ear of some of your business or your landowners. And if you are curious and are not quite sure if this thing that we came up with is gonna work, just let me know. And I can shoot it to our consultants and I can say, what do you want, or what do you think? Should we have a phone call? I mean, they're happy to do that, so.
what are you guys' thoughts, I guess? I mean,
Be
she's a
interested.
go-getter, she's gonna get this done, I can tell just, I mean, I'd work with you every day of the week.
Thank you.
I'd like to watch the link.
I will send, actually, if you want to send me just the email addresses, because they're individual links, that's the way our thing does them, I think. If I can figure out how to do them all in one, I will do that. And then I will send you each, a link will come, not from me, it'll come from our system. But I will send you, or Sarah, would you rather have me just send you the guidebook and you want to distribute it that way?
It's fine.
Okay, and the guidebook, it's big, but it does really go through in depth what the whole process is like.
So.
I mean,
That's fine.
it's just
I'd like
answers
to make a
questions.
motion to proceed with this, ask the council if they have interest in evaluating potential sites and, you know, what we need to do, who they need to call to see who that is. There's no money involved, it's just merely a little bit of legwork and see if the council wants to participate, because, I mean, it's gonna have to be a marriage on that level first, and then also, maybe you call everybody, nobody wants to do it anyway, so, you know, but just my thought.
No harm in going down that road to start with.
What's that?
No harm in going down that road to start with.
Yeah, there's no money in it.
You do have a nice location, I mean,
That's
it's
what it
nice, we
seems
don't
like.
require there to be a 4-lane interstate's always great, you have an exit, which is great. You've got Des Moines-ish going this way, I happen to live on the other side in rural Runnels, so I'm hoping everybody just moves this way.
That's what our new motto is, Des Moines.
Des Moines-ish. But, I mean, so you got some definitely things going for you, I would suggest that when I send you the guidebook, take a look at the utility capacities that are listed, just check those first. Take a look at the different environmentals or the different studies that are done. It's gonna depend, you know, so many things. You have a lot of wetlands in there. We don't require you to have anything at the site. It can stay land, it can stay leased to a farmer, it can be planted. You know, be sure, unless you have a project right away, you're gonna want to have some income. So I mean, it's still a farmer's land and he's gonna want that income. We just require certain things. It needs to be, if there's a project identified, once the project is identified, we have a data center that wants to come land here. Then that's when the timelines take place. You'll see that there's capacity load, such and such, maybe natural gas, the pipelines need to be able to serve that parcel within 6 months at such and such a flow. So just look at those, that gives you a good idea. But again, we don't require anything to physically be at the land, we just require a plan, and so we do have you work a lot with your utilities, so if you're the utility, but it's all the utilities, it's water, wastewater, fiber, or not fiber, but, of course fiber, but telco, well, the others, like electric, gas, so.
So
you did a motion?
I'm asking if folks are okay with that, and I would if everybody's okay.
Okay.
I mean, just, all we're doing is research, right? I mean, that's the leg of this. Matt, do you have questions or comments?
No.
So,
No.
yeah, I think a motion to pursue this, and I don't know how you want to tag the city in this to request if they're interested at all or not.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Kim. How would you vote?
Jones?
Yeah.
Belden?
Yeah.
Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
AB, yes. Okay, we're gonna take a 2-minute break.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and again, also good stuff, if you've got questions, just reach out, you can tell them.
Trade the contract information.
And we'll give those to everybody that you love. Let's get it down. And your floor gets up, I told you it wasn't gonna stand on this. Okay. Yeah, and just ask me if you've got questions on anything. Usually,
That's good. Thank you very much
thank
for
you.
your information.
There's a lot of good stuff, but I like coming to Stuart. We come here a year, twice a year, it's a things done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just different presentations and things. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna trade information.
Okay.
No, Amy, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, I was gonna say, we
Yes.
met each other.
Yes.
One of our things here.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
see you.
didn't, I didn't,
No, that's okay.
I didn't recognize you.
No problem. You're, I was
Yeah.
saying, you're everybody here.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're here, thank you. I didn't know you'd come out.
Well, again, I'm here, I'm not in South Carolina. Lindsay's is our Quest company, we located in Atlanta, she was, I think, they reached out
I
to
don't
first.
know.
She said, oh,
It's gotta be in our utility deal.
I sent.
I mean, I would think airlines, but I don't know where a lot of those are.
I've watched two of the
We're accurate.
Okay.
Do you?
I don't know.
videos. No, no.
Does it go clear out to?
That's easy.
That leads right to.
Okay.
It doesn't go that far?
If you want to, it's like, I don't.
You know where the wind turbine
much
is?
information or just tell
If there's a little bit of interest, if you just travel right through the interstate,
But I
Yes.
just-
On the other side?
you travel south of the fence line.
It's not,
So what about on the?
I don't know if they have the time needed to do all the, say the rock.
Goes over there.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I
Or
just
that's
got
like
to
at Jim Henderson, that becomes halfway between Jim and the cemetery and Forest. Back up behind.
So what's, I mean,
Very
what's,
bad.
but you're looking, let's just say that's 88 behind me. Then behind
Yeah, 40 to, probably 40 to 60.
Country Kitchen.
depending on what-
I mean, that's not even gonna be, that might be the.
Right.
You're on
I said, you're right.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's sit around there for
Yeah.
Of course, that was 2 years ago.
So.
So, but, so I think like, nobody's enthused about spending $40,000.
It's speculative, and that's the part, it's an investment, and so that's what, you just have to kind of, and we've had sites that are still, that we have to recertify because they haven't had, but anywhere today, they just haven't started right hire. And it did sit for quite a while without a hire, and then, but they got that piece out. And I had no idea.
Okay, you guys ready?
I think it's a great program.
We're gonna do number 11, utility financial advisory chip.
Okay, so there's I handed out an email that reviews kind of a summary of a few items from DGR. They had provided an update for today's meeting. And just as a housekeeping matter, they're planning to come to your April meeting to review the substation project again. So just a heads up on being prepared for that. You'll note that they gave an update on the quick trip level 3 charger that's saying the DOT has suspended that program. Therefore, they're.
DOT suspended it?
Yeah, I just noted that. So that's laid out in the email. You can review that as time permits. But they still believe it's prudent to develop additional load classification. So just, it's equipped with the black.
Yeah, but okay, you fresh.
Yeah.
And there's a yellow, that's more of the same thing.
Yeah,
You need?
So that email reviews kind of where that's at. On the Iowa Energy, and look for more details from DGR in your April meeting. On the Iowa Energy Center revolving loan program, Pat, myself, and DGR had a kickoff call to talk about that.
So it exists.
All right, You know it does. So that's in the works. Look for more details from DGR at the April meeting. DGR's made contact with folks at Region 12 who will need to be involved in the application process. So they've had a call, Pat, I think it was March 4th, with Lauren at Region 12. So that program they're in the works and are focused on moving that forward. So just kind of a heads up on that and to give the board an update on where that stands. All laid out in the email. The second page of the black clipped item lays out what DGR had emailed to the folks at Region 12. You can review that as your schedule permits. So the additional items are the agreements. I think it was at your February meeting, you had requested that we get to work on the revolving loan program. That's what the first agreement relates to.
So that's that low interest money at the state level. But do we want to do that until DGR actually sizes the costs and all that?
I think you already did it, in fact, really, at your February meeting. The board gave us the.
Yeah, it was my motion. I'll make a motion to decline it if we're not ready to do it.
Yeah, that's up to you guys, so.
So I'm just asking if we want to do that or not. And, I think we just got, that franchise fee that just made it through that was, caused a lot of skepticism. I think that we gotta do a better job of being more transparent or sharing more information. We think we are, but if we could put more stuff maybe in the billings, like this little table. I don't know, did you make a copy for everybody?
Yeah.
Of this? Okay. I'm not trying to sidebar this, but just give me a minute.
What, yeah.
No, this is something for the,
Okay.
just the history, but, that's all I'm asking. And there was no backstory as to why there's a need for, or what costs were coming up. Nobody in the public, I talked to some of the people on that petition.
You mean what DGR had reviewed?
No, it's nothing to do with DGR, Chip. I'm sorry, this is regarding the petition on the franchise fee. We got against that, I said that the city did. And so all I'm saying is,
You wanna look at that?
Sure. Thanks.
This table Sarah put together shows what our rates have increased for water and electric, along with the tax rates for neighboring communities. And it shows a very modest increase, one time for electric, 3% since 2019, right? So I mean, throwing this in our utility billing, can we do that? Ash?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to.
Does everybody want to do that, or is everybody okay doing that? It shows basically the history of what we've tried to do. And I guess, who can give us a summary of this cost that, we're looking at, right? If we're looking at a project like this, what the need is, the age of the equipment, why we need it, and some sort of, attachment to this, so it's more,
Are you talking about the substation project or something else?
Yes, no, the substation.
Okay.
Well, and we do have a Facebook page, so anytime you guys wanna relay information directly to customers, if you have a handout, we can always put that on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's what
People
we're
will
trying to
see
get
it.
at. That's what this,
Yeah.
to me, that's.
Certain people will see it.
But clearly many people do look at that, like they put in the bills is great, I'm just making you aware that whenever we put something out on our Facebook page, like a water issue,
Right.
pipes freezing, I mean, that gets a lot of views and it costs us nothing. So that's a way we can get that information out if you have a flyer you wanna get out.
Because the ones that's been talking to me over this said we need to be able to get it out better than what we're doing. I don't know how much better we can get it out.
Do you
Well, I'm
want to
not
attach
talking about
this on your Facebook page? This is what DGR presented in January. This is the most thorough document that you have. Do you want to put this on your
Is that
Facebook
the
page?
10 or 12 page PowerPoint with the 2 phases in it?
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm with you. I'm just trying to say, what can we do so then the public doesn't think that we're trying to do something that we're not. We're trying to, what I mean.
This is
last
very
night.
thorough.
There's no conspiracy theory out there, because you can point to a website, you can point to a bill or whatever and just say.
I'd like for an update of this at your April meeting, and at that point, you're not gonna be making a decision in April, this is just an update. So they can answer questions at that meeting, use what they give you in April and put it on Facebook, on the website, wherever you wanna tag it, do that.
Cause like last night, I was on the phone for over 2.5 hours with one person explaining all this. And once it got explained, they were okay with it.
Because at the end of the
Because
day,
they were not being told correctly,
yeah, at the end of the day,
so.
Dollars
we
coming
need to
in.
do something.
dollars coming in are coming from the same people, right? It's, you know, just like our insurance went up on the city side, it went up on the utility side, it's coming out of the same person's pocket for both. So
They're all
it's the same with
citizens.
this, when a rate goes up or whatever it is, it's, so,
And you've already given us that, right?
This is DGR's handout. Yes, I'll
that's what he
honestly
came,
tell
what's
you.
his name?
Yeah, Jared.
Jared
came.
probably given this to you 3 or 4 times.
Right,
So,
That goes back to having not just that, but like a 3 to 5 year plan, like people know what we're working on in each year. You know, that we're talking about, you know, do we bury more lines in the city? And, you know, is that on the agenda this year? Are they gonna do it next? I mean, people don't know when we're talking about doing stuff.
Right.
And when things are gonna happen, so. But if it's on somebody's 3 to 5 year plan, you know, now like, oh, okay, it's coming up, and then they may realize that, oh, that's why things are happening, and that's what. Rather than just like a table of information, I'd like a summary, you know, like a real plan of what, it doesn't mean that we're going to have to do everything that's on that 3 to 5 year plan, but it's our vision.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And so, like I said, when we left last meeting, that low interest loan deal, going after that, I was all in on that. And so, because you can apply and not take it, right? You just fill out the application, facilitate it. But, so that's all I was getting at with the stuff that's happened in the last 30 to 45 days. I'm just trying to, anyway, sorry for the.
So the second part of the agenda is the electric utility rate study. That was approved by the board in 2024. That agreement expired in December, and you all remember last year's attention on rate study wise was really focused on water, and that kind of took all the air in the room, to be candid. So this, if you want me to move on electric, I'd work with the folks at DGR to do that, and we can proceed on that if you wish. And I think that was what the board was supportive of. But
Blair's doing it too.
yeah, Blair's outstanding. They will be, I'll be candid, you have to have them involved because they're more good at the granular cost of service element. You have to have that to have an accurate study. And I think you've already engaged them on that.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, we approved.
yeah, but at no cost to exceed $3,000.
I thought it was 30.
No,
So there's another.
Different purposes.
right here.
Oh.
It was
There's
July,
Actually go to see.
August 2024. Oh, here,
The first one was that amount, I think
Yeah.
40 was.
The rate studies don't exist really.
Oh,
Then
gotcha.
the big ones don't exist.
No,
And that's more, it's like, that was the best description on the,
If you can get a rate study for $3,000, we're lucky. Normally, they're closer to 10.
between the two, it's closer to 10. I'll be honest. But
And Chip used to get a class for free.
I've been through too many of these, and
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit either.
He used to give us.
Yeah, I know.
Not anymore, but that's,
Yeah.
I'm giving him the credit. Credit is due.
So where's everybody at on all this stuff since all this is kind of transpired and moved forward? Is there a reason not to apply for that low, because that might go away, right? I mean, it's a program on a county level basis, and we fit the county. And it's there's a cap to the dollar amount, and I think it's 2%. So I mean, it's helpful,
it's in that range.
but I'm definitely not ready to jump off the diving board to go spend money either.
If we do, this puts the analysis together so you can fund the projects. I'll show like the full scope if you do everything. We can't do all that unless we're engaged, so that's fine if you don't want to.
That's what I'm asking, yeah, absolutely.
so we can't do it in 3 different steps.
So I'll tell you, this is a unique situation that took our compliance people about a week and a half to sort through, because this isn't a bond market financing. It's not a SRF financing. It's its own beast. So that's why this took us a while to get an agreement together. We're looking at it as though it might be part from the revolving loan program. It might be part subject to board approval from a bond market financing. It might be part from cash. It's up to you.
But I
So,
think that's what,
but we've got to figure it out. And to do that, we are very regulated and we have to have the engagements approved if we're gonna work on it. That's simple as that.
I guess I'm where Neil's at. He wants to have a plan over a number of years. And I guess with the savings that we worked out with the city on the cost savings, I don't want to raise utility rates. That's where I'm at from what we've already done. I don't want to raise them at all. And that's just, my own perspective. If we're gonna save $75,000 to $80,000 in shared labor costs or shared services costs, then we shouldn't turn around and go raise utility rates. I think that's what I guess, that's just my own perspective. So I don't know what that means. I would make requests as a utility board member to the council to say, hey, when you have TIF available, can you feather those out on an amortization schedule? And look at that type of work. So your project could go further. I don't know what everybody's perspective is on that either.
Well, if we needed to raise money for a project like this, the first thing I would look at is going to charging the city for utilities. There's very few cities that do not pay utilities in the state of Iowa. And that would be my first source rather than before I raised rates. I would say, I think we need to do that. For our customers.
Yeah. And so I'm just asking, I'm trying to get everybody to read or trying to figure out what everybody's thoughts are on stuff, I guess. Ash, you said what, there's 700, 750 of reserves, and you haven't raised rates since when? Other than that 3%.
This shows last 9 years.
Okay, so are you fine with where rates are at now?
I am, but
If there's no projects?
But if there's no project, I'm good. But if you're gonna talk about projects,
Well, with that number that was estimated off of that savings is $75,000 to $85,000. So to me, responsibly, you wait to see that come in against what your expectations are as part of building a 3 to 5 year plan and work the phases of the project into that. And I don't know if it's 3 or 5 years, I'm just saying. And you work the financing into it, you work a responsible upgrade to these electrical
yes.
infrastructure needs in.
I agree with you. I'm good until you talk about projects.
Okay.
That's really my statement, and we talked about it many times. We're doing okay. I managed in the last 9 to 10 years to keep it like that. There's no increase. But with what we have done in the last few years, water tower, underground, like all that stuff, if you're gonna talk about more projects, you're gonna have to do something about the rate, and I think that's what Chip was trying to say. If you're not gonna talk about projects, I'm good for the next 2 years.
Well, to me, I think I'm wanting to talk about the projects because I think they're needed, but we plan them out. Is all I'm
Yes.
saying. Instead of having
Yeah,
biting off 2 million and 5 million, you bite off, the incremental amounts that are more affordable and are prioritized.
and
I
Chip
think
is
that's a
good at-
question for DGR.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
It's a
totally agree.
project
and I
that's
said
broken out,
that,
Yeah,
and I think you were told at least the substation couldn't.
and the only way,
So
because,
just be prepared to really dig into that with them in April.
but to me, if that's the answer I get, and I've never worked with that person before, I'm gonna get a second opinion. I would want a second opinion. That's just me. I mean, we've been through bad experiences with, things before with other places.
I think there was a number that was talked about if you do the substation project and the main line, that there's a 30% rate increase. I don't think that's a full, complete picture because that assumes that all is paid for with new revenue. That assumes none of your existing profit can cover those projects. And we can work on that if you want us to be engaged on figuring that out. The 30% is, I think, puts the hammer down and it doesn't consider the nuances that you might have some existing profit to cover some of that funding. So another piece, your existing 2017 electric debt is currently callable. So that debt is there and can be restructured, tailored if that makes sense. But you don't want to touch that debt if you're evaluating new projects where it all might be combined as one bond issue. So.
That's exactly what he's saying. It's all about the new project. You know, if we're not talking about new project, you're good. You structure the project, everything is fine for the next 2 years. But new projects, that's a whole different book.
I think between the work that DGR has done on on the substation and the mainline improvements, between this and input from Pat, we can compile a 5-year plan that looks at cash-funded pay-as-you-go projects, the larger projects that you might do, if any, and look at that over a 5, 7, 6-year period, however you want to go. But just remember the inflation part that was talked about in January. Try to avoid some of that if you defer some of the project costs. So just want to be straight. Ultimately, it's up to the board how you want to approach it.
I'm worried a little bit about the macroeconomic stuff that's going on right now, tariffs flying here and there, and, you know, we try to settle on a price on things, and all of a sudden, steel costs or whatever, something along the way with what we're trying to do in our projects is affected by that. The Trump administration has historically been more, I guess, a better energy policy, where a more favorable energy policy on, you know, what does that do? Are they going to be promoting economic incentives or things like that for energy capacity increases across the nation or something like that? We're only a couple months into it. Every day he's got another executive order that's doing something. I kind of like to see what happens in the next 6 months or something on this. Not to say that we don't continue planning for it, obviously, but to just go forward with a project right now in this volatile environment, it just seems like, let's just wait and see what's going on.
I think DGR needs a lot more time to do the planning work, so there's not any immediate project that you're going to see in the next.
Well, then you
2 to 4 months.
and the other thing with this isn't like paving a street. You've got a lead time of a year or whatever it was, but that's up to our benefit, because we can use that time to understand this type of investment. But I guess that's the bare bones deal where I feel like I'm at. I had enough of the feedback from people on this the last 45 days that I have no desire to raise rates on utilities. That doesn't mean that we don't do projects in my mind, because we just had this savings agreement with the city. So that should equate to whatever that number is. Over that same time period, you could see if that actually matriculates to be equaled up. That can go into your planning as well. So, I mean, I don't know, does this make sense, or I guess?
Well, it does to me, because all you need now is just some time,
Yes,
you know,
but that
and
doesn't mean that we shouldn't approve these agreements, but maybe the scope of work is flexible and fluctuated. Is that agreement written that way? That, you know, maybe
The rate study is a time-based agreement, so that
Rate
has
study.
flexibility. I have a feeling this energy revolving, that's going to be a lot to work on.
okay, and
So-
can you even do that without having, can you even do the loan application without having a specific project? You know what I mean? If we don't even know what that is.
I think you already have the project though. You've got the substation. So,
But that's the larger chunk of the cost, wasn't it?
that's 5.1 million of the January estimate, and the main line was 1.4.
And the
And
ballpark,
I think, I plan on a lot of that coming from cash on hand, and developing a multi-year financial plan like we did last year for water that funds it from cash on hand, not borrowing all of it. I think that's maybe one part that
so
hasn't been communicated super straight.
that table last month, I can't remember, was it, I matched that $75,000 or $85,000 with a loan amount of 2 million, I think. And then you had 700,000, so you had 2.7 available at the 2%, and that matched the savings we should get from the shared services cost.
Over a 20-year period or what?
Yeah, it was on a 20-year period. And we can't go any longer than 20 years, correct?
Electric you can,
And so
it's general obligation, I can't go beyond 20.
I don't want to borrow money longer than 20 years, you know?
just, yeah, allow some time. You need some time on these things. you know.
Yeah, again, it just goes back to, I think there's enough. The people I talk to want a Stuart Doge, you know? And I don't, I'm just saying, that's the tone. That's resonated with people, like it or not. I think Elon I mean, whatever, I think he's crazy, but that's just me. The purpose is good, but, I think that people view every dollar coming out as, it's a tax, it's a fee, well, it doesn't matter, so if that matriculates over a 12-month period and we're saving that kind of money, and we can work with the city with TIF, I think that there's blending opportunities that they'd be willing to do that.
Look at the legislation that's proposed at the State House and how that will lower the school tax levy. That's gonna have a huge negative impact on TIF. So
So I mean,
if that goes
yeah,
forward, I have no.
they've had, every year they have something proposed.
This is different though, I think, this year. It's extremely serious this year.
Yeah, they got too much control on one side of that.
It's, just consider that. I don't know that I'd count on maybe some TIF, but I wouldn't. It's
Yeah,
not-
no, I'm with you. It's
It's
just,
not
it's
about
just
a
what
bullet
it,
in the rainbow.
yeah, but it's just a part of the puzzle to me.
I think back to the fundamental project though is how needed is the substation project itself from a peak demand and energy standpoint. And DGR's tried to go over that. I think they'll go over that again at your April meeting. You can't meet your peak demand without that happening. So they're telling you that.
We peaked
That is up to
last
this
year,
board.
we peaked last year, the highest peak we've ever had on the electric side. And that was before quick start even came online. So it's
This summer will
gonna,
be
it's gonna
telling.
do nothing but climb. And we're within a few years of not having enough generation.
And that's the stuff that I need.
Within 3 or 4 years, if, SIPCO says, okay, we're just gonna shut you off for whatever reason, and you need to generate, we won't have enough.
Have they ever shut anybody off like that?
Not that I know of, but it has happened on the REC side. So we're not immune from it.
Sure. That's,
So you wanna table it until April meeting?
yeah, still,
Okay.
That way, cause DGR will be here and
I'm just saying if we approve it, it doesn't hurt anything. He doesn't have to go, there's no work that would need to be done. And then Chip, are you planning on coming out next month or not?
Sounds like it better.
No, that's why I'm saying if we approve this and said don't do anything until we hear from DGR, it doesn't hurt to approve it. That's all.
It's up to you guys how you wanna, I'm not gonna tell you how to.
it's up to you. And, I mean,
I just,
Okay, we'll table it to April meeting.
What is this?
You want
What is
this
this not
again?
doing?
We're gonna table it?
What is it until we table it?
I just want to know.
They'll wait until I go.
I think it needs to be part of, I think it needs to be part of what we're talking about. I think Chip,
I
you
guess
gotta
I
give it that power.
So that he'll be here next month.
Right. So you might wanna restate that.
I mean, it doesn't hurt, it's all fact.
Why exactly?
And then the minute that you ask me, what it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
Why exactly are we tabling it?
I'm fine not tabling it.
No, I just,
She wanted to wait till DGR's here, which that makes sense too. I don't care.
yeah,
Can wait until
I
April.
just didn't know, like, I just heard we were tabling, I'm like, wait a second. we just
Because
talked
of the
about-
DJR and everybody will be on around. Wait till April, so I get it.
Yeah,
But that,
Okay,
they're gonna have a little more to add to it, so.
okay, anybody has any question around these things? We gotta put it together, people.
And how do we get that PowerPoint out, that Chip shared?
You will have an update for April, so.
No, I mean, the one you already shared, how do we get that one out to Facebook or to wherever to?
You gotta wait until April, I think they do.
I don't know, it's up to you what you wanna use, if you wanna use the one from January.
That's what I put out there, and people can see it, you know? Do you have that? You have that? You have a
I
PowerPoint?
know I have an electronic copy of it, so I'll email it to Ash and
Okay,
Sarah.
give it to Sarah.
So.
okay. Number 12, city administrator reports.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Thank
Okay, the first page is the financial statement. We have 7.2 cash on hand. Next page shows you in the beginning of the fiscal year until the end of February, we have made a plus number of 460,000. That's because we got some money for the water now. That's why it's big number. Next page is where you add with your budget. Your budget is 3.6, it's been 2.5. You're doing very good. Page 4 is just what happened these months between the beginning of February, end of February. You have a plus number of $431,000. And we all know that's because of the water tower check we got. Next page is a breakdown of the budget, water, sales tax, electric, insufficient funds for your info. Next report is the delinquent account report, no change on it, and that takes you all the way to page 3. The report after that is the delinquent account paid in full, no change, and that takes you all the way to page 4. Next report is payment agreement, we added 4 people with a check mark on the right hand. The report after that is the paid in full payment agreement, we have 2 people, one shown on page 1, the next one will be shown on page 5. And that takes you all the way to page 8 to end the report. Next report was budget billing, no change. The report after that is the disease and bank cut, no change. Last report is the offset of your information. That takes care of that report.
Number 13, public forum.
Ash and I have training next month that's something that we go to twice a year. It happens to fall on the Thursday when the utility board is scheduled, so we would like to request to move the utility board meeting back 1 week to Thursday the 17th in April.
I'm gonna be out of town that week, so is there a way, because of DGR will be here, so I'd like to, is there another date we look at the following week?
We can do it through email if that's fine, and find a date that will work for everyone. We'll talk to Jared since he's traveling the furthest and see what works for him.
Okay.
Does that sound okay? Thank you.
That was about the forum.
Okay.
14.
14, closed session exempt bargaining strategy meeting, union utility employee wages. A, exempt under Iowa Code Chapter 20.173.
Do we need to go to closed session? So,
Do you guys want to go closed session?
Sounds like we're in closed section.
yeah.
Set the cameras.
Renee said you don't have to if you don't want to, so.
This will all, whatever is decided tonight will be public knowledge anyway.
So, okay,
So is the camera on or off?
It's on.
So should it be on?
you wanna shut it? We can shut it.
If you
Well, I
want,
don't know, if we do a closed session, it has to be off, or does it go off regardless?
If it's closed session, we can shut it off.
Okay.
So we can shut it off? Or we can leave it on?
Up to you, you four.
Fine with being open.
We'll leave it open.
Okay. So who's talking about it?
You.
Pat
I don't know that.
and I got with Renee. And then we got with the guys and theirs, and this is the contracts and stuff that we come up with.
And historically, we usually, as a board, we rely on the chairman and the superintendent to do all the negotiation, all that stuff. And if we don't have any questions,
Really, some of the changes that were made were comp time. They'll be allowed to have a little more comp time. And before, the way it was written, they could only get comp time on Sunday, which I found a little ridiculous, so they'll be able to get comp time anytime of the week. I think having a total of 8 hours maybe on the books. And another one, something else that was changed is right now we can only carry over to the next year 1 week of vacation. And we changed it to 2.
And they had to have it used by April, and we
Yeah.
changed it to December 31st.
Yeah, before we could only carry over 1 week and you had to use it all at the same time before April 1st.
Yeah.
So now we got the whole year to use it and didn't think that. It's not quite as constricting. It's hard to, you don't want to just waste all your vacation that you just carried over in January, February, March. Those aren't the nicest months of the year, so that was one little change we made. And then other than that, it was wages.
If no questions, we usually ask the board to approve it.
Anyone have questions?
Need a motion. Kim, you've been through this and I'll do with it.
Huh?
You've been through all this with, whoever.
Oh, Pat and I've been with Renee.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we had the negotiations with the guys and they're good.
All we're waiting for is the board's approval.
Yep.
Need a motion.
So we need a motion.
I'll move. Unless there's questions or discussion.
I'll second.
Second by Kenny.
How do you vote? Jones?
Yes.
Belden?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Amy, yes. Adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I want these.
Those children were so well behaved.
They
I know.
always are.
They're gonna have to get ice cream tonight.
I